You're listening to Starseeds, Angels, Savant Syndrome. Your host, the Mystic Man, and Paz O'Hara.
Hi, my name is Paz O'Hara. I'm a channel, I'm a visionary artist, and a transformational facilitator and healer. Join us on this podcast as we talk about the subconscious and other transformational tools that you can use to change your life from the inside out, because everything is a reflection on the outside to where we are inside. Remember that you're one step closer, that everything you do matters, and that each and every time you're better, you're stronger, you're faster, you're getting closer. Thank you and have a lovely day, evening, night, wherever you are.
Good morning. I hope everybody is having an awesome day. And for everybody on the opposite side of the world, I hope you're having an awesome night. About 30% of this show's listeners are from France, which is really weird, but cool. Very cool. I got to get some French songs up on here, huh? Well, today we've got something awesome planned for you. We've got a new co-host, Paz O'Hara. If I'm saying that right, I don't even know really. I don't think I've heard her say her last name really. And it's very rare that I do a show this early. Usually I do it pretty late myself. Sean here, the Mystic Man. You're listening to SAS. Star Seeds Angels Savant Syndrome. Sorry, I run a few podcasts actually, and this one has been doing the best. So I decided to go and get an app for it. If you don't have the app yet, please download it. You can find it on Google Play Store. And if you're on this show's main website, which is hosted off Spreaker, then you should find it on your right. You just scroll a bit, and if not, it should be in the description. Unless it depends on the platform, really. There's a bunch of platforms this goes off to, and more every day. Okay, not every day, but I do like to keep putting it out there. It's been a very, very interesting week when it comes to synchronicities, awareness, awakening, happenings. Very, very interesting, very strong. And for the first time, strangely, it seems like not everybody is going through the same experiences, For what, maybe the past year, it's pretty basically seemed like there's been a huge overall theme over all of us. But this is cool. It adds more dynamic. Brings things to be more interesting. Maybe I'm just speaking from my own perspective. I don't know. You tell me. Paz is an amazing person, and I'm really excited. I'm setting up multiple possible routes for this because, unfortunately, Spreaker does not offer two users to be on the same show. But that doesn't really matter because there's always a way. That's my quote. I always say that. There's always a way, and there's always a better way after that. Always. So that's a huge thing, is that to just try. If you have a goal, in any sense, effort is everything. Well, without further ado, let's go over to Paz, our newest co-host, and an introduction. Hey, Paz, how you doing?
Hi, how are you, Sean?
I'm very good. I was wondering if we could get to introduce you to our listeners and maybe go over a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, hi everyone. My name is Paz. I'm a holistic healer. I focus on healing the subconscious and everything that's blocking you or anyone from living the life of the dreams, living their life they're meant to live, living their life that is aligned with who they really are and what they're meant to do in the world.
I love that. That's, I hear it all the time. That's why I hear people talk about how they don't know what their purpose is, even of all ages too. And so that's a huge thing, I think, because, well, for me, well, it's the drive, right? It's what drives us. To give a little backdrop, and I'm sorry, I should have said first, I've been with Kaz for a little bit, and she's been helping me reprogram my subconscious mind, and it's been a trip and a half. It's been a very huge awakening and healing journey, definitely. And I wanted to thank you.
My pleasure.
And also, I should mention, Paz is going to start being a part of the show and co-hosting. I'd really, really like that because it would give more of a dynamic to things, not just me ranting all the time, right? What got you into this, by the way? How did you first start? How did you come across this trade and know that it was yours? It was from the heart and your ideal and goal.
How much time do you have?
Oh,
Okay, let's see. So I think that I was I was born in a way awake. I know this word has been used in so many different ways, and I know it means many different things. But uh, let's say I was born very sensitive and aware that there were many walls around people's hearts, and just seeing people being caught in different illusions and suffering for those illusions, right? And just feeling, well, just so much sadness that that they couldn't reach for those walls and truly live a happy life, and I had a lot of unexplainable experiences throughout my life, but the main thing is that I saw the world around me, and I think many of us do, and I realized that what was happening in my world wasn't working for me. The systems weren't working for me. I started questioning what success was, what happiness was, um, what living in the world meant.
yeah, yeah.
And for good or worse, I began to listen to my intuition. I began to see auras. I saw spirits. I heard things. I saw things. I knew things I wasn't supposed to know. So that sort of gave me some experiences that I couldn't explain, and that, well, let's say I knew for a fact I wasn't tripping or anything. I was a sober person having these experiences. So I
Mhm.
knew there was something more, and I started to research at the age of 14, having
Oh,
uh, yeah, having life life determining questions. Who are we? Why are we here? What's the matter of our life here? What's the purpose of us being here? And I started reading many different things with a very open mind, and I had no one to teach me anything. I had no one to tell me what to do or where to go. I just had my intuition, my curiosity, sort of this energy pulling me forward into different directions and different topics, and I was reading from everywhere. And um, and back then, you know, spirituality wasn't what it is today. Today it's a mainstream thing. It's something of a collective consciousness. Before, it was just,
before it
the
was
kind of thing people, yeah, it just didn't exist, or you were crazy. That was a
Mhm.
subject. So there was definitely some of that, because rationality always is like, okay, like we really have to ask a question.
Yeah,
but
that's
um but yeah, I had experiences that confirmed themselves. I would have situations where I knew something, then I would tell the person, and the person would tell me that was true. So I had different types of confirmation throughout my life that I say, okay, like this is not just my imagination. And I
yeah,
was I was I was very energetically sensitive. I was very obsessed about psychology and the mind and happiness, and it all sort of came through in life stumbled in itself, and I sort of came to this point in time But to make it short, so I don't make it too broad and too open. But
No, that's great. This is great. I
uh,
definitely think I dig it because it gives a lot of backdrop that we can relate to. Everybody can relate to a sense because we did come from that age, and that this age of the awakening into the Aquarius age, and it's been hard for a lot of people. But I think that it's really encouraging when we have, well, like people like you that are really going out there. And you didn't come from a hippie family, right? Isn't that right? You had a
no,
very practical family, right?
lawyers and doctors, all of them. So everyone was a part of the status quo, professional, successful, every single one of them. So I was definitely the black sheep, for
Oh,
sure,
what was
for
that like?
sure. Of I mean, I did have to definitely rewrite my story because you are surrounded by a lot of people that, because they see the world in a particular way, they say that what you're doing is wrong or is not fitting in, and then there's this. It was a process, you know. As I said, it took its time because there was this inner voice calling in, and I know every single one of us has this inner voice calling in and saying and feeling, you know, this feeling that we should do this and we should do that. But for me, in my case, I think that I ended here because my inner voice was so very, very loud that I just couldn't I just couldn't make myself feed in or follow through because it just didn't feel right. And that feeling was so strong. And so, you know, I was very talented from a very young age. I was very creative, so I started drawing a lot from a very young age. And the first thing that I could see from the beginning when I was making images and pictures is that the illustrations that came through, and I always say it like this, it came through,
Channel.
was something that wasn't, yeah, was something that wasn't really mine. It wasn't mine. And I knew there was something else. So I started to be aware that there was this sort of information, energy besides myself coming through me that was so encouraging and so loving every single time. And I think like I try to make it sure, but it's so hard because there's so many different things that happen, so many different experiences that led to this point. But if I can bring it down to one thing, it's just this inner voice just calling forward and saying, hey, how about this? How about that? I felt the travel. I started traveling. I spent 4 years traveling after doing after trying to do fashion. I wanted to become an artist, but I had my own programming. I said no, I don't want to be an artist. I want to be a part of my family. I studied fashion. I almost finished the career, and then I decided that that's not what I wanted to do with the world. It's not what I wanted. It's not the system that I want to be a part of. I saw that the fashion industry was creating most of the pollution, slave trade work, or
Oh
very,
wow.
very badly paid, that it was creating a system, a time frame, you know, where everything's rushing by and they're making their money by making you feel so insecure and so small.
Yeah.
And when I had such a clear picture of what the industry was, that was like that, because I went in because I was so creative and I wanted to be creative and I wanted to bring beauty. But when I saw that, I just had this very strong feeling that that was not the grain of salt that I wanted to bring to the world. So I left it all, um, and I started traveling.
I admire that a lot. A lot of times in society, we see that people don't always leave the system. You know, sometimes it's too hard for people to follow their hearts, and so it's very courageous of you, and I definitely honor that.
Yeah, it was hard.
Yeah,
Breaking patterns is hard. Being you know, being the outcast is hard. I get that. I've been there. And I had no choice, you know, like my inner voice was so my this voice was so loud. I just couldn't help it. And I had no choice but to do it. But I know how hard it is.
yeah,
And then traveling, I moved abroad, and I moved to Switzerland, and everything. I had unexplainable experiences all throughout my life, and it was all guiding me towards this moment. This is what I can say. It was all guiding me towards this moment. Everything just led me here. There was this sense of direction. When you look back, and then people tell you what your life is going to be like, and you don't believe that could ever be the thing, but then it just keeps on happening, and it's this feeling that keeps on growing, and this knowing. I know I'm being very vague, but this is what is coming out right now. But
I love it.
I started. I was closed off from my senses. I could see auras. I could see spirits. I felt spirits. My house when I was a teenager was a dimensional portal. All sorts of crazy stuff happened. And I was very scared, and I was closed off. At the time, my parents had a court case against a satanic church, so that was its own story in itself.
Wow. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we were just talking.
Yeah, like life, like everything that happened just closed me off at when I was 17, and then when I was 25 and I was living in Switzerland, I was pulled back by
Yeah.
incredible experiences, and things just happened, and then everything started to open back again, and I had a realization that this is what I had to do. So I started working on myself very heavily. I started doing Reiki, normal, regular Reiki, but I started just clearing myself, and I started looking at myself. But I think I've been working on myself from a very young age. I've been writing every single time through all my travels, throughout all my life. There's always been a journal. There's always been writing. There's always been expression. There's always been looking into myself, understanding myself, figuring myself out. And so I was doing that process, and I was focusing on that process. Why was I placing so much energy on it? My parents, the lawyer parents, the successful parents, very successful parents, they were not happy. They were so successful, and they were not happy. They were so broken. They came from their own broken, traumatized childhoods, like we all do.
Yeah.
And like everyone else in their society, there was no time to look into the pain. There was no time to look into the trauma. And I could see them with all their success and all their money, and still being so unhappy, and still bringing so much pain onto others because they were in pain. And
It's heroic of you. I love it.
I just didn't want to do this. I just didn't want to create the pain that was created onto me, and I just didn't want to give it to anyone else. I didn't want anyone to suffer because of my pain. And so I took that responsibility onto myself. I said, maybe this is not success. Maybe success is something else. Maybe this is not everything to it. Just go into a career is not everything. And that's why I took the road I took, because I just wanted to do different. And it led me to question everything about the world.
Oh, that's a big one too. I mean, there's so much wrong. Everything seems kind of like we got hypocrisy in the medical industry, and I don't want the CIA up on me, so I should probably chill. But yeah, no, in the legal system, in the school system, especially in the
everything,
yeah.
every single part of their system, when you look at it, is upside down. And I know how big of a deconstruction this means. I know how we're going through a massive deconstruction right now in the world, in ourselves. And so yeah, coming back, messy, but it's what it is. Coming back, I started working very heavily on myself for the last 4 years, very intensely. I've already been doing that, but the last 4 years have been the major part of this. And so I knew that this is what I had to do. I knew that this is what I was good at. I have always been a channel. I have always been energetically sensitive. So this came in. This was what I was called to do. This is what I felt called to do. You know, some people feel called to paint, some people feel called to do mathematics. You know, everyone has their own thing, and I think that everything's perfect because the world has a perfect balance where we all have to be ourselves. We are all meant to be ourselves. We're all meant to be different. We're all meant to be unique, and we are all meant to express where we're here to express. And that is, it's an ecosystem, right? This is creating an ecosystem where everything works together. So for
Yeah.
whichever reason, this is what I felt called to do in my own case. And yeah, I started doing that, and
Wow.
then I started traveling, and it came to a point after the healing process that I was offering Reiki, and I didn't feel to offer Reiki. I felt to do something else. And so I started to do this guided meditation, and then something happened. I had no idea what I was doing, but I started to get all this information. I started to get all these images. Someone came to me, and he was telling me that he couldn't feel anything. He was a guy, he couldn't feel anything, he couldn't connect to his feminine energy. He was
Yeah.
upset with his mother, and he couldn't go over it. And then I started, and so I said, okay, I'm gonna guide you through meditation. We went in, and then I started seeing a place, and then I started uh, hearing her mom, and I told her I could see her mom coming in, and then we had this whole conversation. I could cry for her mom. I could feel her mom talking through me. And then there was this healing process, and then this energy came in. This healing energy comes onto him, and the floor opens him in this vision that I'm getting. And then this huge monster comes in, this huge horrible monster. And as the healing energy comes through to this monster, and the monster starts to melt, it's just him, that he created this anger and rage barrier around himself so he could protect himself from the pain. And
I
as
relate to that. I definitely relate. I'm like,
I
is this
I
talking
know,
like I don't
I
even
know,
know.
masculinity, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Walls to the pain. I know, I get it. And so then we could see him and his inner child coming in together, or fresh or new to the water. Okay, so this was super intense. And then when we come out of this meditation, where I don't know what just happened, I don't know what I just did, I don't know what I just saw, but this person comes out and he says like, I'm like a new person. I feel like I'm in kindergarten again. And his energy was completely different.
that's
And
beautiful.
then
That's
I
awesome.
it's crazy, but it's
Yeah.
good. But
No,
yeah, I just
yeah, we should
life,
have
I mean,
for
crazy
everybody.
in a good way, but yeah, I mean, it's just life. So I had another instance where something like this happened, and I wasn't planning it as well. And then the same thing happened. I could see the person, and then I saw two lines, and then it was like his father's line and his mother's line, and they all had boxes with them, and they were carrying them, and they were putting them on a bonfire. And then we were burning the burdens of the whole ancestral line, and
Oh,
they were clearing them. And then there was this energy, and then was being cleared, and at the same time it was, and then we were doing, and then this all these images start coming in, right? And when we're done as well, he's a completely different person. He's incredibly happy. He goes on, and then he goes on to play, and he's incredibly inspired, playing this amazing music. Like he has been so happy, and it was like a whole different thing unto itself. And then I knew that, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, but it's working. Um, what? Uh, and so yeah, I definitely knew that this is what I wanted to pursue. And then I was called to try theta healing, and I was already doing tarot and learning about tarot. And I need to, and
awesome.
tarot has been such a great tool for me through my journey.
Tarot's
uh
awesome.
it's awesome. Yeah, it's so helpful, really, to
Mhm.
just find your inner guidance, right? And then I was using tarot, I was studying tarot, I was learning tarot. And then I went into theta healing, and I didn't know what I was getting into. I just saw the name somewhere, and I was like, okay, I'm studying this. I went to the course, I went to study it, and I didn't know what I was getting into. But when I was finished, I knew that that was the thing for me. And so, but the most beautiful thing about what I started to learn is that I could reprogram my subconscious, my beliefs. And because I have been obsessed with self-help. Okay, I have been because
Yeah.
I was carrying, I was carrying the trauma of two very traumatized families, and I was carrying it all onto me. I was carrying all that pain onto myself, and I was someone who was very intuitive, very creative, very inspired, but at the same time had my ups and downs. I was very emotional. There were days when I was so empathic that I would drive onto the city and come back and have no energy for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
There was so much fear in my family that at one point I was incredibly inspired to paint, but at one point there was so much fear and stress in my family that I was blocked and I couldn't paint even if that's what I wanted to do. So I had my own issues. So I was obsessed about finding a solution, firstly for myself. And when I realized that I could clear my subconscious, I went I went intensely on it. Let's say it like this. I went intensely on it. I started looking into myself. I started looking into all my limitations one after another. And that was a process that where today I have cleared around 6,000 limiting beliefs around myself. And
Wow.
yeah, intense. So that it's funny because I was going into this healing mode, but it came to a point where people would and people would start coming to me, and I would talk to older healers, and they would be like, "Yeah, you're gonna do great."
You
But
are, you are. It's amazing because the fluidity of being in a session with you, it's like nothing I've ever been in before, ever. And
you,
it's very inspiring, I want to say, because it helps me to free myself, like the inner child, I want to say. The inner child definitely comes out in a more free way than in any sessions I've ever had before. And it's so, I want to say, enlightening in the sense of
yeah,
being also lighter than before, right? You know, like not just the light, but but feeling
yeah.
light, feeling free. And it's amazing how many, and I mean many, different beliefs and structured the programmings that we have in our lives. It's hard to even see them. It really is.
So hard. It's so hard until you realize what's there, and because it's not conscious. Okay, I need to say this first, so I get a little bit of organization, but you know, when we're growing up, from the moment we're born until we're 7 years old, but it goes on, right? Just think about it. You need to survive. When you need, we're the most dependent mammal out there,
Mhm.
and that means that we need to be a part of our surroundings. We need to be loved by our family, because if they don't love us, they leave us, and then we're a baby, we're dead. So
Exactly.
we need to take in everything about our environment to be a part of our environment. We do this automatically, and it's an amazing system. But what happens is that mom and dad, they become our gods, and everything they do is a norm for what the world is, because we don't know better. And so we begin to install all of these ideas, all of these beliefs, all of these concepts about what love is, about what is healthy, what isn't healthy, what is right, what is wrong. Is money good, is money bad? And it depends on how is your family good around money? Do they hate money? Are they okay with money? Do they think that good people act in a certain way? Is abuse and violence a part of your normal family? Because if that is, and this is what you've learned as a child, you're going to relate that to love. So
Yeah.
we start bringing in all this information, and I'm not even talking about the beliefs and programs that come from your family. So if someone in your family and in another generation, they had a certain belief that's limiting, you could still have it.
Oh yeah,
um
that's, huh? Yeah, they did some genetic experiments and found out that those kinds of memories, they stay even if it's latent in the parents, right?
it's an incredible system. We can Trauma can can come can go through up to 2 or 3 generations.
Wow.
So so if your grandfather or your great grandfather went through trauma, it's probable that you're still feeling it. And
Yeah.
that is amazing. So yeah, I mean, and if you have and for those who have an open mind, we also have limiting beliefs that come from past lives. That's for the open-minded.
Wow,
Um,
that's a tough
uh,
one. That's a tough one
that,
to break.
that's a tough one to break. We
Yeah. I mean, well, I
we
shouldn't say that. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm implementing that onto myself, right? Isn't that the because our words are magic, our programming, right?
yeah, our words are that's the other thing, everything, there's so much information here, but uh, our words, our words create our reality, our feelings create our reality, our brains are transmitters and receivers at the same time. So
Yeah.
we are sending and receiving signals, and our beliefs and feelings attract more of the same. Also, what we believe, and this is science, the brain filters information so that we're always right. So if
Oh,
you, for instance, if you believe that every man in the world is a cheater, you're going to attract the cheater. You're only going to recognize the cheater. You're always going to be right
damn,
because
that's profound. Actually, that's true. Isn't that how we do things about life? And that's really how it seems to be. Like, I mean, I don't mean that specific one, but when we have
I
that
know.
any kind of belief, right? It does totally. Um, it seems like it's hard to get out of that. Like we put ourselves in a kind of like our own little hells. Uh,
Yes. And this is why we recreate the same scenarios over and over and over.
um,
And
yeah,
that, yeah. I mean, there's also another little piece of information that's super interesting. And I found it for the clients I work with. This is crazy, but the definitions we have around our parents, we will usually transfer it to the rest of the gender they represent. So,
yikes.
yes, yikes. Yikes is the word.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why the cheater word is coming in so strongly, but about the example. But I had a client whose mother had cheated on her dad,
Yeah.
and then so after that, in his subconscious, he believed that every single woman would cheat. And then I had another client whose father, she felt was useless, and then she believed every single man would be useless. So,
Oh,
and this is the typical thing, right? We are repeating, and then they always say this, you're gonna look for your mother or your father, but this is because it's what you understand, this is what you connect to love. Another client had parents who were aggressive towards one another, and he was so used to it, he felt that was a part of love,
that's
so then he
so,
looked for the same type of relationship. And then we
yeah.
wonder why we keep on repeating the same things, but we didn't understand how this changed. We didn't understand that we are using that through different brainwave frequencies. We go for different frequencies throughout the day. We are in beta when we're awake. We're in alpha when we're waking out. We're in theta. We have different receptivities, and we learn in different ways. And so nobody taught you how this is working on your body and your inner self, and that your beliefs are like computer programs. Nobody taught us this. Nobody taught us how to change it. And so uh, there's a saying with the high society that they had, and I think there's something that Trump even says it at one point, that it's genetics, that
Yeah.
money comes from genetic, and that's why they would marry so closely in the families,
Oh,
that they
wow.
were genetically superior. But I believe here, or I think after looking at all this information, that actually the reason they did this is because of disinformation. Because if you're and it also comes back to rich dad poor dad, right? You
Huh.
repeat what you know, you repeat what you see,
Mhm.
and it
Yeah.
and it also and it goes even deeper than that. It affects you on a physical level. So your beliefs affect your feelings, they affect your actions, but your feelings and beliefs, they also create chemistry in your body that in turn creates your health.
That's right.
So it says everything is connected, not only metaphysically, physically, biologically, psychologically, everything is connected and everything is working for the same thing. So once we can begin to understand that everything is connected, and also that the words that we use are important, that the words that we use, they are suggesting us all the time. They are suggestions that we put onto ourselves. And so it's different. So if you there's this case, I think it's the Olympics, and I think it was uh fast run, I mean, high speed race, whatever. Let's just use this example. I'm bad with names. But anyhow, there was this record. Nobody could break it. Nobody could break the record. One person did break it. Right after he broke it, everyone started to break it. The
What?
reason the reason nobody broke the record is because everyone believed they couldn't.
Oh, that's so true. That's that's the thing too. That's why this show is called at the end Savant Syndrome, and that's a huge one. If you don't mind me interjecting really quick to
Go
tell
for it.
a short story. Yeah, back in 2016, I didn't know how to play piano, and my thoughts in my mind told me I didn't know how at all. I never took lessons at all. One day I was just so stressed, so distressed, so depressed, and I just let my emotions through. I woke up in the morning. I went to the piano because my cousin brought one over, and I sat down and I just played, and it went for 3 hours, and I had no idea where it came from at all. I've never, I didn't know, I've never even heard the song before. I could still somewhat play it, but the question is, where did it come from, right? It's a thing that's very much, I want to say, etheric.
I
Have
I think
you never heard of that savant syndrome?
no, I haven't.
Oh, well, I mean, I'd figure that you basically are that. Most of what you do is so channeled. It's so much from the heart, and I think that's the awesomest thing about it, is because it's so pioneering in the field that you work in and that you do and that you're bringing forth. It's so pioneering. Much of it is uncharted ground, and it's very cool stuff.
I think what I'm trying to bring here is that we can all do this, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
We all have the capacity to be connected to so much more. We all have the capacity to be unlimited, and we are we are at a point in time, we are at an era of our lives, of the world, where technology is catching up with spirituality, and we can understand that that which we thought in the past that was so mysterious, that was so magical, that was so crazy, is actually science that we just didn't understand.
Very practical. It is.
it's
It,
it is It is
it,
very practical, and we all have the capacity to do this. I'm just doing something that we can all do. I'm just expressing something that we can all do. And definitely, of course, we all have talents and capacities that where we're born with a certain skill that we're better at than other people, for sure. And we are forward from others in that regard, for sure. But I think, and this is another fact, the brain can expand and can recreate itself, and the body can expand and recreate itself depending on what we do with it. So if you use, so you have an old woman from 80 years old that has been doing yoga, and she can stretch and move, and she looks like a young girl. I mean, not completely, but I mean, she can move like a young girl because she has worked on her body, and her body has kept on going. We are limitless in a sense. To Okay, with measure, of course, but if you work on anything, and that's brain plasticity, right? The
Mhm.
term of brain plasticity means that we have brain connections, and so when we think in a certain way, when we act in a certain way, we are reinforcing the synapses within our neurons that become stronger and stronger. When we stop doing something, it becomes weaker. You either grow, or you die in a way. You're just decaying. decaying or growing depending on what you're doing. And so, yeah, we all have the capacities we have are unlimited. We're not born and just left at a certain place. Am I making sense?
Yes, you are. And it's really funny because well, I had my list out of like things to ask you, and you intuitively answered them. You know,
Yay!
so it's like, oh, okay, well, yeah. And I hope every listener can follow along, and if anything, click the link below, and it'll guide you to wherever we will design for it. And I'm sure that it's going to be amazing, because the thing is, it's not designed yet. But it'll be there. You'll see it if you're listening, and it'll be there, and it will go to explain and go over more of this, and you can find Paz there, and you can connect with her, which will be a very, very, very great thing, because this field itself, it really needs to be encouraged. It needs to be given nourishment and love. A lot of things in society we think we can just ignore, but the thing is that when it comes to something that we really want to bring forth, I believe that the appreciation and attention and love should go there, just as the same way as that nowadays, where we do it for the wrong reasons, and then we put it all on sex-based Instagram profiles, right? And stuff like that, and it makes those grow. Well, if you
Well,
like, and go ahead.
no, it's okay. I think a thought that we could bring to close this is sometimes we think that it's selfish to work on ourselves, to take time for ourselves. But maybe we could look at it in a different way. And it's that when we work in ourselves and we take the time for ourselves, we actually become people that are more and more nourishing for ourselves and for the world. That expanding onto who we're meant to be and who we're called to be is exactly what the world needs. And the world needs change. The world needs heart. The world needs people that are out there going and confronting their fears and healing, because the pain and the trauma is what is keeping us back. The pain and the trauma is what is keeping this world being polluted and us to the brink of mass extinction. I don't want to bring fear, but this is where we're at. And so we definitely need to change right now. We need to heal, and we need to let go of the pain and trauma that is making us repeat the same patterns over and over and over again, because we're ready for more.
You're very right. You're very right. And that's actually exactly what I needed to hear. Thank you very much for this, Paz.
Pleasure.
Well, I think we should cut it at the hour, and I really hope that you'd like to be a part of the show. That'd be great. If you would be co-host.
I would love to. There's so many interesting subjects that we can bring in. I'm excited.
It's like X-Files. But
maintaining your lawn the right way this fall starts with Lowe's, because Lowe's has the grass seed and fertilizer perfect for your growing area, and the know-how to help you do it right. And at great savings, like up to $15 off select Scott's grass seed. And save $5 on a 12.5-pound bag of Scott's Turf Builder Winter Guard Fall Lawn Food, now $14.97. For all your fall projects, do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. Valid through 10/2. Selection and availability vary by location, U.S. only.
Podcast.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Well, you have a good one, and
Thank you for having me.
no problem. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Hi there. The Mystic Man here. You're listening to SAS. Starseeds, Angels, and Spawn Syndrome. It's a lot of sisses. Ain't it? We might change the title. I don't know. We got a new co-host here, so I'm open to suggestions. Actually, the name came about from a lot of ironies. That's what I like to go by in my spiritual mysticism. Irony. It's all throughout. Because we have a balanced mind, a balanced heart. Well, I like to believe that the heart is always balanced, actually. Well, that's where we're able to really discern the things in our lives. As my grandmother puts it, love is from the heart. Thought is from the mind. The mind cannot know love. It can think that it knows love, but that happens in the heart. So when we have times of inner turmoil, we have to quiet the mind and sink back down to the heart. This becomes a tool, a compass. It's the way that I measure. Well, that's the thing, is that Paz, she does a really cool way. She has her, it's called the muscle test, if you've never heard of it. And I'm kind of new to it. I've seen it before, but I've never really tried it until her. And it uses the subconscious mind to, through the body, to pinpoint the answers that the subconscious knows, but we don't. It's a very handy tool. A spiritual tool, or extension of yourself, really, because we shouldn't call it a tool. I don't think so. More like a skill, right? It's very similar to the way that I do it, and that it uses the natures of the natural body. The way that I do it is I gauge the thought by the emotion. If a thing feels painful, well, then obviously it's not the truth. See, the heart cannot lie. The heart is unconditional. We place the conditions on top. And we can judge and weigh the values of each thought and the conditions that we might be blind to by the emotion. This becomes a tough thing when it comes to the rise in psychic readers and online empaths and such, because there's a lot of untrained individuals out there, and this is why Kapuhuna, which is basically that we could say that it's the sponsor for the show, but it's really my business. It's a small online business that I got going, but it was started off in an ideology of connecting spirituality from all throughout the world, basically bringing peace. Of course, what that would mean. That would mean a lot of a lot of facing religions and the religious in really hardcore keyboard warriors. You know, and Paz, she's probably the most amazing. I don't know if I would call her a life coach or if it's. See, I want to call her a doctor. I really do, but I know that that there's laws against that. But I'd say let's just say she's a doctor because she basically is. I've gone to a lot of healers and they all help, of course. But Paz really, really knows her stuff. It was specifically what I needed to heal, I think, because if you do astrology at all, and even if you don't, here's a little intro into some actual astrology, not the horoscope newspaper, Sunday newspaper kind of thing. I have my South Node, which is the lunar Ketu in Vedic. It's the lunar polar node, south polar node, at my sun sign, which is hard. Very hard. But also a very powerful thing. So it's a 7th house Libra, mind you, which means that, and I know this is going to sound really ridiculous because the ironies of it, but I really internally know relationships. Of course, I've had horrible relationships, and that's because I was unbalanced. And I've had some good ones too. I've had some really great ones, and that's a huge thing. I think is that a lot of times I see people they only have spite for their exes, and it's not enticing, right? But when you can say that you've had really good relationships, that's a beautiful thing. That's what you want to have, isn't it? So I think that we should all practice that because it's become a fad these days to down on exes and such. But well, basically, let me get back to the astrology part. So because of that, there's an interesting dynamic there. You see, with that aspect, that would mean that if I really did not just accept, in my relationships that I would understand internally certain aspects that others wouldn't, well, then I'd argue, right? Which is horrible. Since my Saturn return happened, though, that taught me a lot. That taught me acceptance, forgiveness, and blossoming in unconditional love and what that means. If you're curious about what that means, you can buy my book. I will have a link for you right at the description over on Amazon, and that's pretty cheap. It's fairly cheap because it's not that long of a book. It's not. I figured nowadays people have short attention spans. I believe the average for online web surfing was 3 to 7 seconds on a page, which is wow, right? Yeah, so for me, in relationships, that was a hard one, is the accepting. Let me put it at this dynamic, and I'm not referring it to myself at all. This is a good way to put it in dynamics for dualities. Now, I want to remind you, for every astrology sign, there's an equal opposite sign that has equal opposite values that are right and true. There's no sign that has everything, all the knowledge and wisdom going for it, really, They all lack perspective. It takes depth to understand something, and it takes two eyes to see depth. So that means that there would have to be the blind faith between any two perspectives of the zodiac in opposition in order for them to understand the bigger picture. Because they got to work together. So that said, imagine that you are Jesus Christ, or like him, or just you're you, okay? How about this? You're you, and you aspire to do all that is good, right? And you do all that is good, and you don't mess up, and the world comes after you, trying to make you mess up, right? Now let's say you just keep going, and you're making it, and you feel the you don't have a pride, you're humble, you're the servant and everything, and you do no bad, you do no evil, right? And then you make it, right? And let's just say, hypothetically, wherever the it is, wherever the end point would be, let's say you turn around, right? Well, everybody else would be more evil than you. Now, that would be the image that you would probably be able to apply to what it would look like from hell. Isn't that funny and ironic? The opposite spectrum does work the same way, too. Now, let's say you were evil, and then you kept doing evil things, and you just were the most nastiest, grimiest person, and you went all the way, to wherever you could, let's say hell, right? You went all the way and you were the worst scumbag, right? Now imagine you turned around and you looked at everybody else. Well, they'd all be angels. Well, technically, that means that you're in heaven. That's the irony that Carl Jung talked about when he wrote about the aspects of the shadow and the shadow self. You see, it's an interesting thing is that when a person aspires to do good, and a lot of good, well, then they end up evil. Not end up evil. This isn't Batman. What is that? There's a flip. There's a balancing point. To where, if they don't have themselves already the right tools, and they're configuring their life around a dynamic of lies, illusions, well, then they would end up doing the evil by default. Same goes if a person is aims to do evil. They would end up basically finding redemption. They would feel the guilt and the shame, and be opposite. And we find this in the world all around, right? Popes doing bad things, priests and such doing bad things, and people in prison turning to God. It's nothing new. It's nothing extravagant. And really, it's common sense. But, and I will say but, because there's always an irony, right? I believe that flaw, that fault, is only due to our insistence of the good versus bad duality spectrum, right? Because let's say, as long as you keep that ideology, that means you're blaming other people. It doesn't matter, like, how good the society is. If you implement that ideology to everybody, then they're going to blame somebody. And they're going to be blaming the innocent by default. This is the logical fallacy of it. All right. Thank you for listening in. I hope you have an awesome day or night. And I'll catch you next time. I hope you like Paz. She's awesome. And actually, I know you like her. I know you love her. Because everybody's going to love her. She's amazing. I vouch by that. And I'm sorry. I live in the ghetto. I do. And this is not some podcast from a fancy building. No, this is just me in my apartment. But irony is the face of God. And Jesus Christ was born in a manger. And Forrest Gump, well, he owned a shipping company, you know. And that's what's up. You have a good day now. Umao ke'ea o ka'aina I kapona.
Texting enrolls you into reoccurring automated text messages. Message and data rates may apply.
Come on, one more rep. You got this.
10.
There it is. Nice work, man. You're a beast.
Thanks, man. I feel better than I have in years. And I got to tell you, taking Nugenix makes a huge difference for me.
Nugenix? That's the testosterone booster with TV ads with Frank Thomas. The big hurt, right?
Oh, yeah. This is a legit product. The key ingredient is testofen, which helps boost free testosterone levels and increase lean muscle mass.
Well, it's clearly working for you. Hey, are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, Nugenix is a great way to increase lean muscle and feel stronger with more energy and endurance.
Man, I need to get a complimentary bottle of Nugenix.
No problem. You just got to send them a text. Text BODY to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix, the #1 selling free testosterone booster at GNC. Nugenix samples are not available in stores, so text BODY to 42424 right now. Text BODY to 42424. That's BODY to 42424.
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's Employee of the Month, 2 months in a row. Leave a message at the... Hi, Jamie. It's me, Jamie. I just had a new idea for our song about the Name Your Price tool. So when it's like, tell us what you want to pay, hey, 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 and the trombone goes, blah, 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 and you say, we'll help you find coverage options to fit your budget. Then we just all do finger snaps while a choir goes, savings coming at ya, savings coming at ya. Yes? No? Maybe? Anyway, see your practice tonight. I got new lyrics for the rap break.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.